Hey, what's up good people? Welcome to another episode of Pwned. Yeah, you guys already saw the video title, you guys already saw the thumbnail. I have the Balance Blaster by Swin, and this is in the shotgun pump configuration. And the reason why I'm saying that is because this blaster actually has two configurations. Now before I talk about it any further, I want to give a big shout out to Enoch, because without Enoch I wouldn't have this guy in my hands to try out. It is unfortunately not my blaster. It was loaned to me so that I could take this video and share this with you guys. And I guess you could say kind of give my thoughts about this thing. So just to get it out of the way, I know that this blaster is a little bit more on the expensive side, but the fact that Enoch put this blaster in my hands means that price isn't gonna really affect the way I think about this blaster. Whatever I'm gonna tell you guys, the good and bad, is really just from the perspective of the blaster itself, the way it's built, the performance and everything. And then finally, regarding the price, you have to decide for yourself whether or not you think this is worth it. I'll leave that to you. Alright, so like I mentioned, this is in the shotgun pump configuration. The other configuration features a bolt priming action. Well, not really like a bolt slide priming action. So I'm just gonna call it the bolt prime and the shotgun pump prime configuration. So that's two. And because the installation is straightforward, but it's rather tedious because it requires a complete teardown, I'm gonna share with you guys a little footage that I took the moment I finished assembling it in the bolt prime configuration. Please check it out. I've just finished the assembly of the Balance Blaster and I gotta say that it looks really good. I wish this was mine. But anyway, I've got it in the slide or the bolt configuration. There are two configurations to this blaster. The first one is this, which is the bolt version, and the second one is a shotgun pump version. And the conversion between these two versions is not that straightforward. It requires almost a complete teardown. Well, in my opinion, it's like a complete teardown of the blaster, then changing parts up and reassembling it. So I thought I would just take a firing demonstration of the blaster in this configuration for two reasons. One is because pulling back on the bolt is a completely different action and takes a different muscle group altogether versus pumping it via a shotgun pump. And the second reason is because each of these configurations features a different barrel. This version, the bolt version, actually has this aluminum, I want to say aluminum, but yeah, I think it's aluminum, and it's powder coated, but it features this barrel over here. But for the shotgun pump version, it features a brass barrel. So those two are the main reasons why I want to get this firing demonstration recorded first before I actually disassemble this thing and then change the configuration over to the shotgun pump version. Now, because I said I just assembled the blaster, I want to say that I did fire a test shot, and I gotta say that this is possibly the smoothest priming action I felt on a blaster thus far. I have this mag here, and I don't know if this actually comes with this blaster because it actually was passed to me in a whole package. So I don't know if this actually belongs to Enoch or to Swin. But this looks like a cut down worker Talon mag, because literally it says 15 here on the capacity marking, but clearly it's not going to hold 15. Now I have 3 silicone tip darts in here, and we're just going to fire this off right here. Yep. So check out the priming action. It's really smooth and really silent. Just amazing. Wow, that's some thunder in the background. So all 3 darts out with no jams whatsoever. And this thing is really it's really smooth. I do want to point out at this stage that I found out that if you don't have a mag in the mag well, the pusher is kind of loose. You can see it kind of wobbling a little bit, and sometimes this might misalign, so don't just jam this thing forward when you don't have a mag in the mag well, because the pusher might end up hitting the gate and you don't want to damage the gate or the pusher. So just make sure that you go slow but really steady. So if it leans too far on the side, it'll get stuck like that, see? So just make sure that you have the alignment. However, if you have a mag in the mag well, it's going to help guide the pusher. So no worries there. Also, the seal is pretty good. There are no O-rings on the pusher, so I'm just going to block this up, and you can actually kind of hear the plunger kind of just having that air cushion. That's it for this firing demonstration. This is the Balance in the very beautiful bolt configuration. I dig it a lot. And now that you've seen that, I'm gonna give you guys a firing demonstration of the Balance in the shotgun pump configuration, and I'm gonna tell you guys this thing is really smooth as well in the shotgun pump configuration. I am really shocked at the performance. The quietest and smoothest shotgun pump priming blaster I've experienced thus far. I'm really shocked. let's go. And because in the other configuration I was using a cut down Talon mag, I'm going to be using a full-sized Talon mag for this configuration and this firing demonstration so that you guys can see the compatibility. And also I need to turn on this extra light panel so that hopefully you guys can see some of the darts flying out of the barrel, because this thing is firing lasers. Check out how silent the prime is. Even on a shotgun pump, you hear that high-pitched whizzing sound? I'm gonna tell you guys that that's not even from this sliding portion here. It is actually from the seal of the lip itself. It's all there. It's the air seeping in and out. That's quite crazy. Now I'm gonna be firing out 10 darts from this mag. The first 5 darts are pink slugs, and the next 5 or the last 5 are blue silicone tip darts. So here we go. So that's 5 of the pink slugs, and now it's time for the silicone tip darts. All darts out, not a single jam. This thing is just performing so good. Woo! Okay, so now we're done with the firing demonstration. That is out of the way. I'm going to be talking to you guys about the blaster. I want to mention that this carrying handle here and this front grip are attachments that I put on. Also, I put on some leather rail covers just for fun because they kind of look in the same aesthetic as this thing. So I thought it actually matched pretty darn well. That's just my personal taste and my personal preference, I guess. But yes, I'm going to talk to you guys about the fit and finish of this blaster. This thing feels really heavy, really solid. It actually feels almost like a fully kitted out Exus, because the Exus shell itself is actually quite heavy, but when you start putting full metal internals in it and then you start adding attachments to it and everything, it actually gets quite heavy. This actually feels around the same weight range, I gotta say, but definitely it is heavier than a Caliburn. Now I don't have a Caliburn with me anymore. I've sold all my Caliburns because I really didn't use them, and then the hardware started rusting, so yeah, pardon me, but I have handled a Caliburn before. I've handled a Caliburn V1 and a V2, and I gotta say that this is quite substantially heavier than a Caliburn. It is also rather substantially heavier than a Longshot, but this thing really feels super solid. The only thing you hear rattling around is actually this part. It's the grip. Other than that, everything else is super silent. Even the trigger has very minimal wobble. And this is if you're really kind of shifting it around, but when you shake it like that, the only sound you get is from here. So if I hold this, you don't really hear any shaking sound at all, so there's no rattling in this thing. Everything is fit very, very well. It's so snug, every single portion. See, even here on the back, it's completely flush. All sides, even the grip and everything. Trigger also feels really, really smooth. This is the smoothest trigger pull I felt on a blaster ever. And this could only be done by someone who is really an enthusiast. I mean, I'm just really, really shocked. Since we're talking about the trigger, I must say that this grip here is the most comfortable grip I've handled so far. I know it's not showing up really well on the camera because it's black here, completely black, but I have to say that the ergonomics on this is really, really well done. I've not yet handled a grip that is this ergonomic. Like, it's really smooth, really rounded, and the finger grooves are perfect. And even though it is a 2 halves construction, the seam here doesn't bite at all because it is nicely chamfered and rounded. I believe that this was done so well. The finishing and everything is really, really good. Nothing here at all. All of this feels really comfortable in hand, and I just wish that all people who produce third-party shells could have grips that are like that, because this is really, really something else. And that trigger pull is the smoothest thing ever. Now, since we're talking about this general area, the grip area, I've got to mention that the mag release lever is a little bit different from what I've experienced so far, because you kind of push the lever down with the index finger, or you can kind of push it down with your thumb. Now, because the mag well and the mag release lever are made of nylon, this thing is actually a really snug fit for mags. Let me just show it to you guys. It's a really snug fit. There really isn't any room for wiggle or kind of rattling at all, but that also means that you won't be able to have your mags just drop out. The good thing is that the mags really stay in there, but the funny thing is that this action here to kind of remove your mags with the other hand, the non-trigger gripping hand, it's kind of strange because you got to kind of pull down on your thumb, and then you have to kind of pull down on the mag at the same time. So unless you can kind of find a way to have it go in one full action, like with your thumb going downwards with your hand moving down like that, maybe you can kind of release a mag really quickly, but if not, it actually feels rather strange because you're actually pushing down on your thumb and then you're gonna have to pull your fingers away downwards while your thumb still applies pressure onto that lever there. So that's kind of going against the natural motion, but after a while you will get used to it because I've practiced it quite a bit. Also, I want to mention that using your trigger finger to push down on the lever and then pulling the mag out is a little bit strange as well because you're actually holding the entire weight of the blaster in your firing hand or your trigger hand. Then you got to push down on the trigger finger, which is kind of weird, right? Because everything here is kind of pushing upwards. You're holding the blaster up and then you're pushing down on your index finger. It's kind of, I don't know, like some kind of finger dexterity exercise. While doing that, you want to yank this down as well. So it's really kind of strange because this is going down while the rest of it is going up. So I think the best way, in my opinion, is to actually just use the hand that is removing the mag to take out the mag itself. That's, in my opinion, like if it was a push button or if it was I don't know, something else, like maybe with your middle finger, like how Gavin came out with the mag release lever for the long shot where you can actually use your middle finger, maybe that would make more sense. But in this case, because the blaster is so heavy or so much heavier than what most people are used to, I think this is something that you have to really consider. So let's just continue talking about the externals. The shell itself is really well done. It's super sleek, and I don't know if this is the only colorway, but this one is anodized pink. And it looks really good because the anodization is actually quite even all the way throughout. And you got a laser marking of the words balance precise shot system here on the exposed part of the plunger tube, but there is a little bit of a typography error because the letter T was replaced with the letter F, so it becomes balance precise shoff sysfem. So it's kind of funny, just wanted to point that out. But yeah, the aesthetics of this is really good. The internals are a combination of metal and nylon, and the rest of the shell or the chassis is made of nylon for the top and bottom parts, as well as the back part that kind of holds or guides the plunger tube and the pusher slash breech in place. But the side plates are made of aluminum, I believe it's aluminum, and the trigger grip here is made of 2 solid pieces of metal. That is really like 2 huge chunks of metal. And then the trigger is in metal as well, catch plate is in metal, plunger tubes in metal, the plunger lip and the breech are in metal. If you are using the shotgun pump version, then the barrel is brass, but if you're using the bolt slide prime version, the barrel is in metal. I believe this is also aluminum, but it's been powder coated black. And since I have this out here, you can see that the dart gate itself is made of some kind of plastic. I believe this might be Delrin because the finish on the dart gate is different from the finish of the rest of the shell. So yeah, the rest of the shell I know is made of nylon, but the dart gate might be in Delrin. However, you notice I didn't mention anything about the plunger head, and that's because the plunger head itself is actually made of nylon with the stem that interfaces with the catch in metal. And the last piece I'm going to be talking about is essentially what is the replacement for a bolt sled. Now I really dig this design because it is almost like when I first thought of how to create a bolt sledless long shot using PVC to kind of push the entire breech and lip back. There is a nylon piece that clamps on the breech itself, and there is a cutout on the breech to allow for that, but that is really well done, and I gotta say that the tolerances on that are really tight. So that portion itself, I'm gonna call that the clamp sled because it's not really a bolt sled. It clamps down and acts like a bolt sled, so clamp sled. Let's not make it a thing. I'm just gonna use that term for this video, okay? So the clamp sled is made of nylon as well. So with that said, I believe that I've gone over the materials that this blaster is made of. Now, there are a few main factors why this thing is so smooth. The first one would be the clamp sled itself. The clamp sled features 4 bearings, 2 bearings on each side that will interface on the inside of the metal plates on the side of the shell. So that makes it really smooth when you are priming, whether or not it is in the bolt prime configuration or in the shotgun configuration. But in the shotgun configuration, you can see that the shotgun pump area also has bearings. Now this actually has 8 bearings, 2 on the top and 2 on the bottom of each side of the blaster shell. And these things actually slide along the plates of the shell in this parallel motion, and that makes it super smooth. I really love the application of this, and to be honest with you, I think this is only possible if someone actually machines these. I don't even think I could create a homemade version of these. Well, maybe I could, if only I knew how to design stuff in 3D and then also have access to a 3D printer and some really high quality filaments. But this, made of nylon with the bearings there in place, this is really smooth, and I think that this is really the smoothest blaster I've experienced thus far. Like, this is quite crazy, really quite crazy. Yeah, I'm really guys, this is a 16 kilogram spring, and this thing is just, without that extra resistance on the prime, my goodness, it's crazy. Now I have to mention to you guys that the shotgun pump slide area, which is this part with the bearings here, is actually linked to the clamp slide area via a metal bar. And this bar actually sits parallel to your barrel in there. And if you don't disassemble the blaster, you wouldn't know how this thing works. And I gotta say, this is really well thought out. Now I want to talk about why this thing isn't a straightforward conversion between the two versions of these things. And that's because the chassis parts of the shell are really different. Now in the shotgun pump version, the Picatinny rail is raised from the side panel itself. You could see a small window slot right here, but if you are going for the Slide Prime version, this is going to be flush. It's going to be completely flush to the top of that pink metal side plate here, because the other nylon piece is going to sit just like that. So it's going to be completely flush. So this actually requires you to completely disassemble the blaster and then fit everything back in place again. Now with that, I'm going to segue into actually assembling or disassembling the blaster. This blaster was sent to me semi-assembled, but I had to disassemble it. Enoch shared with me that he was struggling trying to make everything line up nicely. He felt that for some reason things weren't aligned, and I realized why. That's because all these nylon pieces here, these nylon parts of the shell, actually feature slots that are drilled out for screws, but the screws that are provided are slightly larger than these slots itself. So what I did was I took screws and I started to screw them all in, like how I used to do on any F10 555 3D printed shells. I would always kind of tap those screw slots first before performing the full installation. So I had to do that to every single screw slot first, just to make sure that the screws would sit in nicely. And the next thing is that these metal plates, right, they do have screw slots, but the screws don't sit in and slip through all the way. They are not tapped, but you have to twist the screws in as well. So it's not like where you could drop a screw in and then slowly tighten onto the nylon part, and then slowly as you tighten it, the nylon part closes up with the shell. That's not the case here. You have to make sure that everything lines up perfectly. So what I had to do was constantly apply pressure when I was installing screws. So I had to rest the blaster on a solid surface, put constant pressure onto these metal parts of the shell, and then while applying that pressure and keeping the pressure constant, I had to install the screws. And it took me about maybe 3 tries in order to really make everything line up perfectly. But once you get it, it's gonna be there all the time. So that's just, in my opinion, kind of like a teething problem. You do it once, you do it good, and then it's always gonna be great from here on out. So I didn't really have any more problems after I started to change out the chassis of the shell, just try different configurations. That was quite easy after that, but that's something that you really have to take note of. Now I want to say that it's not really a pro or a con. I guess it's a give and take kind of situation, right? In order to get such a clean or tight fit, more effort has to be put in. So that's the effort, and well, fruits of your labor. This is really flush and really sleek. Now nothing wobbles at all, there's no rattling at all. So that's what I'm saying. Now the next thing I want to say is that I'm really surprised that the plunger head is not made of metal, and also that the clamp sled parts are not made of metal. Now I'm going to be open about this, and maybe Enoch's going to be mad at me or Swin's going to be mad at me, but I'm just going to be honest with everyone watching this video. One of the legs on the shotgun pump version of the clamp sled broke in the box. I don't know if it's my fault or maybe it was broken during shipping, but these nylon parts, they are strong, but they are also brittle. So once they go past a threshold, they will just snap. And so when I looked at it, there was a really clean snap, and it was so clean that there was no way I'm gonna use like super glue or something. Plus the tolerances on the thing is just way too tight. So what I did was I actually cleaned up that area and I completely replaced the leg with a spare screw that I found. Thank goodness the spare screw I found was exactly the same outer diameter as the leg itself, so it fit. I just had to cut the screw down to length once I installed it, but I know that it's working perfectly fine because, well, it's in here right now. So that's also another thing that I wanted to point out. That was a little bit that part I think is actually really crucial. So these are the two most crucial parts that I feel should be made in at least a stronger material. Even if it's aluminum, I think it'll be better, because, you know, it's gonna be quite troublesome if you want to kind of change configurations and you have to remove this piece. Now just to kind of highlight to you guys, these are the 4 legs that I'm talking about. 1, 2, 3, 4. The middle 2 actually have screw ports, but it's these 4 legs that are really brittle. So yeah, those legs are actually quite prone to failure, but they are a crucial component of the functionality of the blaster, because those clamp around the pusher or the breech itself in order for you to prime the blaster in the first place. So a lot of stress actually goes to that area, and I think that Swin should consider changing the material to improve that part. I'm looking at the machining quality of everything, right, including the nylon parts, and I believe that Swin can do it. Like, he does have the capabilities to do it, to create a plunger head as well as the slide clamp part in metal. And I think that'll be really sick. Another thing I want to point out is not really a gripe, but it's something that raises a bit of concern in my opinion, and it is the fact that the shotgun pump version uses a brass barrel, and there's no sleeve to protect it. And we all know brass is kinda soft. If you drop this thing is going to warp, and the moment this thing warps, and that's it, your barrel's gone. And I don't think that you could easily replace the brass onto the dart gate there. So, okay, I'm sorry everyone, my camera ran out of space right at the last moment. But hey, I was just wrapping up the video anyway. So once again, this is the Balance Blaster by Swin, and I will catch you guys in the next episode. Till then, drills pay the bills and teamwork makes the dream work. Peace!